Tonight, we return to the very foundations of modern dream interpretation, venturing into the intricate and often controversial world mapped out by Sigmund Freud at the turn of the 20th century. His groundbreaking work, The Interpretation of Dreams, published in 1900, arguably ignited the serious psychological study of our nocturnal narratives. The central question he posed still echoes today. Are dreams merely random synaptic firings, meaningless echoes of the day's events? Or are they, as Freud passionately argued, something far more profound, coded messages rising from the depths of our psyche, intricate disguises for our deepest wishes, unresolved conflicts and repressed desires, all hidden beneath a bizarre and often illogical veneer? What you are about to discover is not just a historical theory, but a potentially powerful lens for illuminating the secret forces, the hidden motivations that may be subtly directing your waking life. At the heart of Freud's approach lies a fundamental distinction, a crucial first step in deciphering the dream's code: the difference between its surface appearance and its hidden meaning. When we wake and recall a dream, what we remember, the sequence of events, the characters encountered, the setting, the actions performed, constitutes the manifest content. This is the dream as it appears to our conscious awareness, the story we can actually narrate. Often this manifest content seems strange, disjointed, nonsensical, or even mundane. It might be a confusing jumble of images or a seemingly straightforward narrative that nonetheless leaves us feeling perplexed or unsettled upon waking. Freud insisted, however, that this manifest content is merely a facade, a cleverly constructed, though unconsciously so, disguise for the dream's true significance, the latent content. This latent layer comprises the hidden unconscious thoughts, wishes, impulses, and memories that triggered the dream in the first place. These are the raw materials, often deemed unacceptable, threatening, or socially taboo by our conscious mind and its internal censor, which Freud believed operates even during sleep to protect us from disturbing truths. The manifest dream, therefore, is a compromise, a way for the unconscious wish to find some form of expression while simultaneously being distorted enough to bypass the sleeping censor and avoid waking the dreamer. Let's consider a very simple dream example to illustrate this distinction. Dreaming of eating a delicious meal, perhaps a specific food you enjoy. The manifest content is straightforward, the act of eating. On the surface, one might simply conclude, "I must have been hungry before bed," or "I was thinking about that food yesterday." Freud, however, would urge us to look deeper, to treat the manifest element as a potential symbol. He would ask, through the process of free association, allowing the dreamer's mind to wander freely from the dream image, what does eating represent for this specific dreamer? Perhaps the act of consumption symbolizes a hunger not for food, but for knowledge, affection, power, or success. Maybe the specific food itself holds a symbolic meaning tied to a person, a memory, or a particular desire. Could the enjoyment of the delicious meal represent the disguised satisfaction of a forbidden pleasure, an impulse deemed unacceptable in waking life? Perhaps a sexual desire, an aggressive impulse, or a socially inappropriate ambition that can only be safely consumed within the symbolic realm of the dream. The manifest act of eating becomes a permissible substitute for the latent, repressed wish. This distinction highlights a key Freudian insight. The manifest dream often seems bizarre or illogical, precisely because it is a product of distortion and disguise. The unconscious doesn't think in the linear, logical terms of waking consciousness. It operates through association, symbolism, and condensation. Therefore, the stranger or more nonsensical a dream appears, the more likely it is, from a Freudian perspective, to be concealing particularly potent or heavily censored latent material. The weirdness is not meaningless noise. It's part of the code itself. This invites a crucial question for self-reflection. When you encounter strange, disturbing, or illogical images in your own dreams, figures that morph impossible events, objects behaving unnaturally, what might these bizarre elements be concealing? What thoughts, feelings, or desires might your conscious mind be unwilling or unable to face directly, forcing them into these elaborate symbolic disguises during sleep? Could the very strangeness be a clue to the intensity of the underlying, hidden content? If the manifest dream is indeed a disguised version of latent thoughts and wishes, how exactly does this transformation, this intricate process of encoding, occur? Freud detailed several primary mechanisms, collectively termed the dream work, Traumarbeit, which are the unconscious psychological operations responsible for converting the raw, often unacceptable latent content into the relatively more palatable, though often bizarre, manifest dream. Understanding these mechanisms is key to unlocking the dream's hidden language. Perhaps the most striking feature of dream logic is condensation, Verdichtung. This is the process whereby multiple latent thoughts, ideas, images, or figures are compressed, fused, or combined into a single element within the manifest dream. It's a principle of extreme psychic economy. A single dream figure might possess the face of one person, the clothes of another, and the mannerisms of a third, thereby representing the dreamer's complex and possibly conflicting feelings towards all three individuals simultaneously. A single dream location might blend features of several real places, each carrying different emotional associations. A single word or phrase in a dream might carry multiple layers of meaning. Freud noted puns are common in dreams. This mechanism explains why dreams can feel incredibly dense and rich with meaning, seemingly packing vast amounts of psychic material into a brief narrative sequence. It also accounts for the creation of those strange composite figures and surreal objects that defy waking logic. They are nodal points where multiple associative chains intersect. Another crucial mechanism is displacement, Verschiebung. While condensation compresses meaning, displacement shifts emotional significance. The psychic intensity or emotional charge attached to a highly significant, but perhaps threatening or unacceptable latent element is detached from its original source and transferred onto a seemingly trivial, unimportant, or neutral element in the manifest dream. The feeling remains potent, but its apparent object within the dream is altered, making it less threatening or obvious. For example, intense anger towards a parent might be displaced in a dream onto anger towards an insignificant object or a minor annoyance. Deep anxiety about a major life decision might manifest as intense worry about losing one's keys or missing a train. The seemingly peripheral detail that evokes a strong emotional reaction in the dreamer is often, according to Freud, the key element where significant latent meaning has been displaced. This mechanism is crucial for disguise, as it allows powerful emotions connected to repressed wishes to be experienced without revealing their true, potentially disturbing source. It explains why the emotional tone of a dream can sometimes feel strangely inappropriate or disproportionate to the manifest events. Furthermore, the dream work heavily relies on symbolization, symbolic, Darstellung durch Symbol. This refers to the translation of abstract latent thoughts, desires, conflicts, or ideas into concrete, often visual imagery in the manifest dream. Freud believed the unconscious primarily thinks in pictures and sensory experiences, not abstract concepts. Therefore, abstract notions must be represented symbolically. He famously proposed a range of symbols he considered relatively fixed and universal, largely drawing connections to the human body, family relationships, birth, death, and especially sexuality. reflecting his emphasis on psychosexual development. He suggested, for instance, interpreting elongated objects like sticks, towers, or weapons as phallic symbols, and enclosed spaces such as boxes, rooms, caves, or ships as symbols of the female body or womb. Activities like climbing, flying, or dancing might symbolize sexual intercourse. Falling might represent giving in to temptation or anxiety, while contemporary psychoanalysis is far less rigid about assuming fixed universal meanings for symbols, emphasizing instead the dreamer's personal associations and cultural context. The core principle remains influential. Abstract concerns do find concrete, often metaphorical, representation in dreams. Feeling vulnerable might be symbolized by dreaming of nakedness. Guilt might appear as being pursued or committing a crime. A search for identity might manifest as looking in mirrors or wearing masks. Dreams utilize the tangible to express the intangible. Do you notice recurring symbols, images, or figures in your dreams? Considering the principle of symbolization, what abstract ideas or feelings might these concrete images represent for you? Finally, there is the process of secondary revision, Sekundärbearbeitung. This is the final stage of the dream work, occurring closer to consciousness, perhaps as the dreamer begins to wake. It represents an attempt by the more rational parts of the mind, the ego, to impose some order, coherence, and narrative structure onto the often chaotic and illogical products of condensation, displacement, and symbolization. Secondary revision smooths over contradictions, fills in gaps, establishes plausible, though often superficial, causal links, and generally makes the dream more story-like and easier to remember and recount. However, Freud cautioned that this process adds another layer of disguise, as the apparent logic or storyline created by secondary revision can obscure the underlying associative links and symbolic meanings derived from the primary dream work mechanisms. Thinking about displacement, are there seemingly minor parts of your dreams that carry an unexpectedly strong emotional charge? Could these be points where significant unconscious meaning has been shifted? These processes, condensation, displacement, symbolization, and secondary revision, work together unconsciously to transform the raw, forbidden, latent thoughts into the disguised, symbolic narrative of the manifest dream, allowing the unconscious to express itself while protecting sleep. But why does the unconscious go to all this trouble? What is the ultimate driving force behind the dream and its intricate disguises? For Freud, the answer was clear and formed the absolute cornerstone of his theory, wish fulfillment, Wunscherfüllung. He famously asserted that every dream, without exception, is the fulfillment or attempted fulfillment of a wish. This wish typically originates from desires unsatisfied during the previous day, the day residue, or more profoundly, from deep-seated, often unconscious and repressed wishes, frequently stemming from early childhood. The dream, he wrote definitively, is the disguised fulfillment of a suppressed, repressed wish. This is perhaps the most controversial and debated aspect of Freud's theory. How can nightmares, anxiety dreams, or dreams filled with unpleasant content possibly be considered wish fulfillments? Freud addressed this directly and argued that even these distressing dreams fulfill a wish. The wish itself, however, might be one that is so forbidden or threatening that its disguised emergence still generates anxiety, guilt, or fear in the dreamer. The negative emotion is part of the conflict surrounding the wish itself. Alternatively, the unpleasant content might represent the fulfillment of a wish for punishment stemming from unconscious guilt feelings, a masochistic tendency. He even noted that sometimes the unpleasant dream might fulfill a wish related to the analysis itself, such as the wish to prove the psychoanalytic theory wrong by having a non-wish fulfilling dream, a form of resistance he observed in patients. He often pointed to the dreams of children, which he believed frequently showed simple, undisguised wish fulfillment, dreaming of toys they wanted, food they were denied, or activities they enjoyed. In adults, however, due to layers of repression and the complexity of the psyche, the wish fulfillment is almost always disguised by the dream work. Crucially, Freud believed the most powerful and persistent wishes driving dream formation originated in infancy and early childhood, particularly those related to psychosexual development and the Oedipus complex. He theorized that innate drives, primarily libido, his term for psychic sexual energy, and later aggression, constantly seek expression. Early experiences related to feeding, toilet training, burgeoning genital awareness, and relationships with parents involving love, rivalry, jealousy, fear, create powerful desires and conflicts. Those wishes and conflicts that cannot be adequately resolved or integrated are repressed into the unconscious, but remain dynamically active, constantly seeking an outlet. Dreams provide a primary outlet for these enduring, often primitive, infantile wishes to achieve a disguised form of satisfaction when the conscious ego's defenses are lowered during sleep. The specific dream content might draw on recent events, the day residue, but the underlying energy, the driving wish, often traces back to these foundational, unresolved childhood themes, according to classical Freudian theory. This perspective invites yet another reflective question. Even when considering dreams that leave you feeling anxious, sad, or disturbed, could there be an underlying, perhaps deeply hidden or even paradoxical, wish seeking some form of satisfaction? Could the anxiety itself be a reaction to the disguised emergence of a forbidden desire? Could the unpleasantness fulfill a need for self-punishment or represent the difficult struggle involved in confronting a repressed truth? Exploring this possibility, however challenging, is central to the Freudian approach to dream interpretation. Sigmund Freud, through his meticulous and revolutionary work on dreams, effectively opened a door, a royal road, into the vast and often hidden territory of the unconscious mind. He presented dreams not as random neurological static or mere reflections of daily life, but as profoundly meaningful, intricately constructed messages from the deepest parts of ourselves. They were, in his view, communications encoded by the unconscious, carrying the weight of our most fundamental wishes, fears, and unresolved conflicts. While many aspects of his theory, particularly his strong emphasis on infantile sexuality and specific symbolic interpretations, remain highly controversial and have been significantly modified or challenged by later psychological schools and scientific findings, his core insights continue to resonate and provoke. Freud's work forces us to confront the unsettling possibility that our conscious awareness represents only the tip of the psychic iceberg, and that our most powerful motivations, desires, and conflicts often operate beyond our direct knowledge and control, shaping our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in ways we may not recognize. The ultimate revelation embedded in Freud's dream theory is this: dreams are not meaningless. They speak truths, albeit often in a disguised and symbolic language, about the desires, drives, and conflicts that we fear to acknowledge consciously. They are windows, however distorted, into the hidden dynamics of our inner world. This leaves us with a profound and perhaps daunting question, the very question Freud implicitly posed to his patients and readers. Do you dare to listen to the language of your own buried desires? Are you willing to engage with the strange, sometimes disturbing narratives that unfold in your sleep? Not as nonsense, but as potential communications from the hidden depths of your own being. Engaging with dreams through a Freudian lens means undertaking a journey of psychological archaeology, carefully excavating the layers of disguise laid down by the dream work to uncover the latent wishes beneath. It requires courage to face potentially uncomfortable truths about oneself, about repressed anger, forbidden desires, unresolved childhood issues, or hidden ambitions. We often explore the intricate landscapes of the human mind and the theories that attempt to map them. If delving into these depths, like our exploration of Freud's dream theory tonight, sparks your curiosity, consider subscribing to continue the journey with us. We're also keen to hear your thoughts and experiences. Does Freud's idea of dreams as disguised wishes resonate with you, or does it seem far-fetched? Share your perspective in the comments below. Ultimately, the invitation Freud extended through his work on dreams remains open. The challenging, potentially transformative invitation to look within, to decipher the code of desire written in the symbolic language of the night, and in doing so, perhaps come to know ourselves, not just as we consciously present ourselves to be, but in the complex, often contradictory entirety of who we truly are.